into authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us. From personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation. And we are going to Karmelo. Okay. Now you guys can hear me. Tanisha Talks Teas on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. How are you guys and what are you guys sipping? Today we are going to be sipping tea on a story that took place a couple weeks ago. Karmelo Anthony, Black teen, killing or murder of Austin Metcalf, white teenager down in Texas, y'all. Let's go ahead and deep dive right on into what is going on. So, 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony is accused of fatally stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a high school track meet. This happened back on April 2nd. So let's go ahead and get into the backstory. We're just going to, give it all of what leads up to April 29th. Let's see. Okay, so he was arrested. They were all at a track meet. Apparently, Karmelo Anthony was sitting under one of the track tents that he did not belong to or was not on the team of the school that the tent was assigned to. And Austin Metcalf, 17-year-old junior at Memorial High School in Frisco, approached Karmelo Anthony and attempted to remove him from the seating under the tent. Karmelo Anthony felt fearful for however the approaching happened, and he pulled out a pocket knife and stabbed Austin Metcalf, the 17-year-old Caucasian child, in the heart, and he died, I believe, instantly on the track field under the tent. So he was killed at UIL District 11-5A track meet at Kendall Stadium on April 2nd. Police said a student from Centennial High School in Frisco, 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony, stabbed Metcalf in the chest during the fight. An arrest report said that Anthony told a school resource officer that Metcalf put his hands on him after the officer mentioned to others that he had the alleged suspect in custody. So apparently, I don't believe Anthony ran, but I do believe he threw the knife. I believe he threw the knife away, and the knife was not initially found when the incident took place. I believe Anthony may have kind of fled the initial scene of the incident, and then in the moment of doing that, he threw the knife away. So he did state, though, once he was in custody, that he's not an alleged suspect in custody, as the officer said, like over the CB radio, like, I have the suspect in custody. He said, I'm not alleged. I did do this. I did stab Austin Metcalf. Okay. The report does state that Anthony also asked the officers, is he going to be okay? So Anthony asked the officers, was the Caucasian child that the kid Anthony stabbed, Carmelo Anthony stabbed, was he going to be okay? And you're gonna see why I'm sipping the tea from the black and white areas of the case. Okay. And he asks if what happened could be considered self-defense. Witnesses told police that Anthony was sitting under the Memorial High School tent and was told to leave. Anthony allegedly told Metcalf, "Touch me and see what happens." According to the arrest warrant affidavit, one witness told police that Metcalf then pushed Anthony to get him out of the tent. Anthony then reached into a bag and stabbed Metcalf. So apparently the Anthony black child had a pocket knife in a bag. Okay. He did bring it on to a school, and I know that that's not allowed under any circumstance for a child to bring a weapon onto the school property. Anthony was arrested and is now charged with first-degree murder, guys. Okay. So bringing us up to speed, right? April 2nd, this is when this occurred. All right. I want to get into the first initial video. So this is Austin Metcalf. Okay. This is the boy that was stabbed by Carmelo. I don't know why I keep calling him Carmelo Anthony. Okay. Very good looking Caucasian kid. I believe he's half of a twin. So he was an honor student and a natural leader and talented athlete. He was also a twin. He led the football team. He was voted team MVP by his players and his coaches. He played inside. His brother played outside. Football was his pride and joy. He was working on track and field to increase his speed, which more than likely would have placed him at the track and field tent. So he and his sons went hunting together. This would be Austin Metcalf's father speaking. They went hunting the weekend before the stabbing, something that they lived to do together. And his father goes on to say he's very fortunate to be able to spend that weekend, not knowing that it would be his last weekend he'll never spend again with his son. So he was able to watch and be blessed so much to have such. Both his sons are amazing. His other son, which is a twin half of Austin Metcalf, is crushed. Obviously, he's part of a twin. So I'm pretty sure he feels like a part of him also died when his brother died. If you guys know what type of twin bonding can look like and feel like for most twins, is when one feels something deeply, the other one may be able to also feel it as well. So I feel for him now. He won't be the same. None of us will. There are a lot of controversial speculations going around behind this, whether it was a senseless killing or a brutal murder, or was it a self-defense killing? Okay. So let's bring ourselves up to speed on the story. So he was arrested. His initial bond, this would be Carmelo Anthony right here. Okay. Nice looking black kid as well. Looks like he was also brought up under someone's love that appears to be, you know, the initial first look I get from these teenage children. I don't see a bunch of tattoos and just, you know, they don't look like they're not unkept love children. So Anthony was arrested. His initial bond was set at $1 million. He was then arraigned, and then the bond reduction hearing was set. After his bond was reduced, his family posted the bond. Okay, so Anthony did go to court and get a bond reduction. I believe his bond was reduced down to $250,000. Okay, so he was released from jail. And he was placed on home arrest, of course, until the possible trial starts. Now, they're using words like possibly. Carmelo Anthony can be possibly found out to be not guilty if this looks to be a self-defense action that ended in a murder of another child, okay? There may be a court hearing scheduled between now and the possible trial. Just to probably check in, Carmelo Anthony is a teen, and I'm pretty sure this is very scary time for him to possibly face a prison sentence. So they want to, of course, keep up with Carmelo and make sure that his mental health is in the best state possible so that he doesn't potentially commit suicide. Prosecutors in this case will seek a grand jury indictment. Okay, so the prosecutors do want to try this in a jury case. During grand jury, only the state may present evidence. If the grand jury believes the state has the evidence to go to trial, Anthony will be indicted. If not, and Anthony is no bill, the original charge will be dropped. So no bill would mean like found not guilty, self-defense, something of those things. So the state could seek a different charge if that happens. So they could try to bring it down to like manslaughter. They could try to bring it down to, whatever other charges would fall under something just not as harsh as what they're trying to charge him with now. Okay. If you know what those could potentially be, go ahead and please drop those in the chat along with your TCAPs. We are sipping from Carmelo Anthony and the Austin Metcalf murder that occurred April 2nd. Prosecutors, okay, wait. Then there will be a period of time for preliminary hearings and pretrial motions. Each side will prepare their case and they can negotiate a possible plea agreement. So a plea agreement could look like Anthony may be serving out the rest of his life in a juvenile detention facility. I believe he's set to graduate from high school. So I'm believing Anthony's around 17 or 18 as well. That would not be a long sentence. I'm pretty sure the Austin Metcalf family would be not wanting him to only serve a juvenile. I don't know if he's being tried as or charged as an adult currently. So, I mean, all these things that we need updates on. If you know any of these updates, please drop them in the chat along with your TCUS, okay? If there's no plea agreement, a trial date will be set. At this time, the defendant can decide to have a jury trial, okay, or have a bench trial. A bench trial would be where the judge would sentence Carmelo Anthony, not a group of 12 of jury trial. So what do you guys think that Carmelo Anthony should take? A plea agreement, a jury trial, or have a bench trial? I'm a little undecided at the moment. A plea agreement could be 5 to 10. That means that the rest of his young adult life is essentially over. A jury trial, they could go any way with you on a jury trial, depending on exactly what evidence is entered and what the jury is set, to really believe all occurred and happened at that moment when the Austin Metcalf child was murdered. And a bench trial is just left up to the judge. The judge can go from whatever stipulations are, in the law that he can sentence Anthony under. So I'm still undecided. If the defendant chooses a jury trial, the jury would have to be unanimous in their decision. If found not guilty, the defendant would be released, okay? If convicted, there would be a sentencing hearing. After the sentencing hearing, the defendant may request review of their conviction by an appellate court. Appeals, okay? Of course, that means that they would send their appeals up through the Supreme and federal courts, such as such, and see if, they could possibly get another jury of however many appellate court lawyers would look at the situation and see if it would bear any error for overturning anything. So anyway, the appeal must allege specific errors or abuses of discretion by the trial court. The appellate court may affirm the conviction, reverse it, or remand the case for a retrial. Okay. So we've already got into that. Let's get more caught up to speed with when Anthony was released. This was a picture of when Anthony was released. Okay. He and I don't think that's an attorney. I think that's a person that advocates for Anthony in the matter through some type of Black coalition organization. A lot of people are using race. We're going to get into that, which is why I put Black teen, white teen in the topic. Okay. So Minister Dominique Alexander, I believe this is the guy that he's pictured with here, says Carmelo Anthony is safe at home. The moment is a reminder that a community united can never be divided. The journey ahead is long, but today we celebrate a victory for justice, for family, and for the power of people coming together to protect our youth. Thank you to everyone, okay? So there's a lot going on here. What we need to know: after the judge granted this bond reduction, Anthony was given the terms of the release. He was fitted for an ankle monitor and was placed on house arrest. He will only be allowed to leave the house if he has prior approval from the courts. Okay. He is to be supervised by a parent or a designated adult at all times. He is not allowed to have any direct or indirect contact with Austin Metcalf's family. Okay. So if he wanted to say, I am so sorry, anything, he would not. Right now he's not directly able to do that, or through any third party. Okay. He is allowed to go to his attorney's office for scheduled meetings that are approved by the court. He must check in with the bailiff every Friday morning until the case is moved to a different court. The court requires Anthony's family to update their address with the Collin County Sheriff's Office if they need to relocate for safety reasons. And it's going to bring us up to him getting released. Okay, let's listen in.
Within the past hour, 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony has been released from the Collin County. Judge reduced his bond this morning from $1,000. Say he's Metcalf while at a track meet at a Frisco high school. Stephen Dial is in McKinney with more. Stephen.
Karmelo Anthony left the Collin County Jail in a suit but had nothing to say to the reporters before he got into that vehicle. The district court judge says that she looked at all the factors in this case, him not having a criminal history, and that led to her making her decision to reduce his bond. 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony was silent after bonding out of the Collin County Jail and being placed on house arrest.
Okay, y'all, they are paying bills on little videos. Okay, thank you for sipping this tea. We're sipping on Karmelo Anthony and the Austin Metcalf story.
This self-defense.
2 days after the family of Austin Metcalf buried their son, they were at the Collin County Courthouse for a bond reduction hearing Monday. Stabbing and killing Metcalf at a Frisco track meet earlier this month. The case has quickly become national news, drawing a lot of attention, resulting in threats and increased security at the courthouse.
Threats and, talk of race war and all kinds of insanity isn't good for, obviously, the Anthony family. It's not good for the Metcalf family.
Cameras were not allowed inside the courtroom, but we did capture the Anthony family arriving. His father, Andrew, testified in the hearing. District Court Judge Angela Tucker said that she's never gotten this volume of calls and had to have this level of security in the courtroom in her 13 years on the bench. Anthony stabbed Metcalf during a fight. When an officer told the officer, I was protecting myself. Collin County District Attorney Greg Willis spoke after the hearing.
The judge has made the call, and so what's important is what's next, and it's to be fact-based, follow where it leads.
Anthony's from work because of the incident, and his wife is a stay-at-home mother with 3 other children. During the hearing, the prosecution brought up the fact that more than $400,000 have been raised for the Anthony family, saying a reduction is not needed because they have the funds. A big question in this case will be, why did Anthony bring a weapon to a high school stadium? It's a question that was asked of his attorney.
That's an understandable question, but it's not something that, frankly, we're prepared to even go into.
Now, in the opening statement to the media from that interview that you just heard, he led with talking about self-defense. Again, the court documents mention self-defense. We'll have to wait and see how that defense will be made in court when things pan out. Now, according to the judge, the terms of the bond are house arrest and ankle monitor. She told him to stay off social media, and he has to personally call her bailiff every Friday morning, not his parents, but him. And if he violates that, he'll return to the Collin County Jail.
All right, Stephen Dial live for us. Thank you, Stephen.
Okay, so that was a little video excerpt on the Austin Metcalf. He was murdered by Carmelo Anthony, not the Denver Nuggets player. When I first heard it, I was like, what? Carmelo Anthony stabbed someone. And then they were like, it was a 17-year-old high school student. Okay. So let's get into some of the things. Did we just watch this one? Okay, so this is him leaving, released on bond.
We're up. Dominate the Rift with Opera GX. Install any official LOL esports mod from GX Store to unlock bonus content and features. Browse the collection and choose a mod. Open GX Corner and scroll to the Riot section with a brand new co-streaming hub. Set your language and choose a stream. Only on the browser for gamers. Only on Opera GX.
Okay, that's Anthony writing off from being released. Okay, that happened, I think, last week on April 14th. Okay, so it was reduced from 1 million to 250,000. Okay, the judge said because he was a untroubled teenager, like he didn't get into trouble. She gave him a bond reduction, and he made it. People are speculating that. What is playing?
To defend themselves.
People
when they
are
reasonably
speculating
fear
that
for their life. Self-defense.
He used
each
it,
and
the
every one
money
of us.
from this fund, right? Well, unfortunately,
And Karmelo
not use.
is a 17-year.
Thank you. Like, take that off my background. I don't know what that was, but I think it was an ad. You can, if you commit a crime, right? You cannot use GoFundMe to raise funds for your legal fees or anything. Okay, so that's just what that is. So he had to go through another thing, a fund place. I'm not familiar with what it is off the top of my head, y'all. As we said, it's not Carmelo Anthony with a C. It's Carmelo Anthony with a K. Okay. So let me get into the videos, because there's a video that I really want to watch that will explain more of the monies that was raised for him. I believe last time I heard it was like $300,000 that was raised. They are using that towards, of course, his legal fees, such as, you know, he should. So here's a little something here. But I wanted to listen to, I have it in my Facebook. Hold on, y'all. Okay. Let me get in my Facebook and find the video. So I hope you guys are having a good evening. Thank you all for tuning in to Sip This Tea with me. We're on Carmelo Anthony tonight and the murder of the Austin Metcalf child at the football field. I told you I was going to get back up here. I just had to get my shit together for, you know, my streaming purposes, things like that. So, la-di-di-di-da. And I really want you guys to also check out my videos that I am doing, my faceless videos. They are really cool. I'm talking to you on those as well. The last one I did was about Shannon Sharp. Okay. So I really want you guys to watch that too. Thank you guys so much for sipping tea with me. Okay. Carmelo Anthony's family speaks out. Here it is. Okay. Let me bring this up. Share this tab instead. Okay. Okay, so here's the full video. Carmelo Anthony family press conference after he was released on a $250,000 bond. You are waking up this morning with Tanisha Talks Teas to elevate and soar. Let's go. Play.
father being at this press conference. These are my words. Don't quote anybody. Is a disrespect to the dignity of his son.
I realize it's sideways. That's just the way that it recorded on my phone. I don't know why. Yeah.
Next Generation Action Network from the beginning has respected the loss of life. No matter our opinion of it, we have kept our opinion close. We have not attacked. We have not shared the information that was shared with us about Austin Metcalf, because we respect the dignity of life and loss. A minister, I would not attack a grieving family, even if I disagree with them. When I have stood before this podium for people who have died at the hands of law enforcement, I have asked for that same manner of respect. And even when the shoe is on the other foot, I will not do that. And all I'm going to say, so it don't be asked later, is that was disrespectful and just shows you all the character. Was not invited, he knows that it's inappropriate to be near this family. But he did it. And so I say to people, actions speak louder than words. What he has failed into is the political operatives that want to make this thing a political thing of hate, yet bigotry, and yet racism. We have conservative operatives that have been posting non-stop about this case. It is outright disrespectful. We haven't been doing it. The Next Generation Action Network has been here, popular and unpopular. So regardless of what's going on, that was disrespectful. Disrespectful. And I will leave it to y'all to define it. But of course we want to. Y'all, I'm Minister Dominique Alexander. I serve as the president of the Next Generation Action Network. Today I come before you with a heavy heart, but determined in spirit. Not just as an advocate, but as a black man, as a father, as a protector, community, and children. There are 4 critical points I must address today. And I want to make sure that the public and the media and everyone who believes in truth and justice. First, the misinformation about the fund. From the very beginning, there was an intentional disinformation surrounding the fund created in the support of the Anthony family. The Karmelo Anthony Fund, hosted by Give, Send, Go. Let's be clear.
Okay, it's called Give, Send, Go is the fund. So now we're going to talk about that. Okay, listening closely, y'all, so y'all can understand more about where and what is being done with the monies that was raised for Karmelo Anthony. Okay, in the moment of this matter that occurred in his life.
The family has not received one dime. Any of the media could have verified this. But we saw on Twitter, we saw on Facebook, and so many different things of the false, lavish life of this family. $800,000 home, purchase Escalade, and private security. Let me make this very clear. The Next Generation Action Network has always had a security detail. Many of you that know us in the Dallas and Fort Worth media know that we have our own security detail. One of the individuals that escorted Karmelo Anthony out of jail is here present with us Now, they are a part of the Next Generation Action Network security team. The family hasn't hired any private contractors or whatever, or splurged or whatever. But if they have the audacity to spend money for their safety and security, that's their prerogative. The family has not withdrawn, and just until recently, just yesterday, they were officially notified by Give, Send, Go that they could start the withdrawal process. But if anybody know about this process, they know that that takes about 2 to 3 days to withdraw from that and actually hit any account. But this blatant propaganda wasn't just about the fund. It was to discourage the public from giving to the fund. That's what this was about. Because just like TMZ was able to call, Give, Send, Go, everybody in the media, in these news outlets that I've never heard before, could have did the same thing. When I first called Give, Send, Go, they gave me every information that I needed. Okay? So that's what I'm going to say on regards to that. Let me make this very clear. This family never authorized a single fund on the GoFundMe platform. All of the funds that were raised on the GoFundMe were all fraud. All of the funds that was raised on that platform were fraud, okay? The family was the first to report these funds. One of the funds we identified raised up to $11,000. So a post about anything that stated that GoFundMe took everything down regarding Karmelo Anthony, that was at the request of the families and their supporters. This family never tried to create an account on GoFundMe. The Next Generation Action Network is very well aware of the company's policy regarding raising funds for legal defense. Okay? Since this tragedy unfolded, the Anthony family has been subject to unimaginable amount of hate, racism, threats to their safety. People have sat outside their house, sent objects delivered to their door, publicly harassed, online and in person. This is not just about Karmelo. It's about the family who dared to stand and demand justice in return and receive ugliness that racism in this country still breeds. But let me say this loud and clear. We are not scared. We are not moving. We will not be silent. What I've always said as the president of the Next Generation Action Network, we will never ask the oppressor for permission to liberate our people. We will not ask for permission to stand up for the rights of our children. The Next Generation Action Network has stood on both sides of the fence in ensuring that justice is served. Now getting to the information that the Next Generation Action Network wanted to share with the public today. And I will go ahead and pass it over to the mother and once I make this statement, okay? All right. There's two more finally. For the last week and a half, the Next Generation Action Network has engaged in communications with Frisco ISD, to ensure that Karmelo Anthony's due process is not violated. We know that in the state of Texas, there are things that are discretionary things and decisions by the leadership of Frisco ISD, right? There are clear guidance in the state and education code regarding expulsion of a student. We have asked several times. We didn't just rush. We have had these conversations over the last several days. And we have stated that it is just outright wrong to get involved in this. Karmelo Anthony doesn't have to walk. He doesn't have to involve in any senior activities. But Karmelo Anthony is a 3.7 GPA student. And if he doesn't even go to class for the remainder of the year, he would graduate. Okay? We've asked that Frisco do not make a decision in this situation. But Frisco ISD has notified of their intent to expel Karmelo Anthony from school 1 month before his high school graduation. That just shows me that Frisco ISD is trying to push off the blame. And what I have not heard the media say, as many media outlets have asked us what went on, I'm trying to find how many of y'all have asked the superintendent or one single board of trustees, why didn't you cancel or postpone? With weather in that magnitude, you couldn't have a track meet in rain or thunderstorm or clouds. Y'all are the media. Ask your journalists, your weather journalists, how the weather was that day and that time. Y'all do that research. Because as a person who is the administrator of your children, you are responsible for the safety of the children. And so it seems as if Frisco ISD is trying to push this off by making this decision that they do not have to make. So the Next Generation Action Network, outside of the legal process, will be going through different avenues regarding to ensure that we fight for the rights of Karmelo Anthony. Okay? So in the next coming days, we will be announcing to the public. We will do direct action outside of Frisco ISD administration office because this is outright wrong. You are getting involved in a process that even the legal process has asked us to respect. And we're asking you to do that same thing. You do not have to get involved in this situation. But it seems that even with us going and meeting or having conversations, they have made their mind up. And we want to make sure that the records, that we talk truth to power in regards. I wanted to lay this out to ensure, because of the sensitivity of this case, there are so many moving factors that I have to explain so that this family does not have to explain. Let me say this about the 4th, and let me repeat this so that you guys can go to the Frisco Police Department. The reason why the family or me or anybody with direct knowledge of this cannot talk about the particulars of what happened in that tent, I know you know this is all law, is because if anybody tell you there was an adult near or inside or whatever, this current investigation knows nothing about that. Everybody involved at this point of our knowledge are minors. In the state of Texas, you know we cannot release or talk about minors. So stop asking us the question. Stop. It's no. We can't even do it if we wanted to. Okay? We can't talk about it. So don't ask. There is a court of law that will express everything, will lay out everything. We can't talk about it if we wanted to. Okay? So make it clear. Go back, confirm with Frisco Police Department. Go back, confirm with the district attorney. Even in the bond hearing, you didn't see a single thing said about people that was indirect. They're minors. Okay? So stop. The social media, stop. I haven't saw not one person single-handedly get this right in the public. They're minors, y'all. Just stop. We can't. Don't send another inquiry to NGAN inbox. Do this, all of that. That's the reason why we felt like it was important to do this press conference today. We can't talk about it. So if you ask me, I'm just going to look at you, okay? So I'm telling the world, everybody know the state law. I'm not creating it. We can't talk about it. This family can't talk about it. I can't talk about it. Nobody, unless you want to be sued. You release one of those 16-year-olds or 15-year-olds and 17-year-olds' name, the law of this land tells you what was going to happen to you. Okay? So don't ask that question. Finally, in regards to this judge, I do not know Judge Angela Tucker. I've never met her, never known her, never been nowhere near her court. Don't know anything about her until we were notified that she was going to hear the writ. But the ugly attacks on her just shows Black America that no matter what you pick in the ballot box, and that is your constitutional right, it's people out here reminding us of the Black struggle in America. This woman is a registered Republican, has been for years. She put herself through school, she raised her family, she did everything. I'm a registered Democrat, proud. I'm the chair of the Dallas County Democrat Resolutions Committee. I remember that woman. And to call her leftist is just downright disrespectful. The bond that was given is according to law and consistency with practice. If Aaron Dean can get a $300,000 bond when he killed a Tatiana Jefferson, Karmelo Anthony can get a $250,000. If Amber Geiger can get a $200,000 bond when she kills Botham Jug in his own home, he can get a $250,000. If Roy Oliver can get a $250,000 bond after he kills Jordan Edwards, all white officers, why couldn't Karmelo Anthony be entitled? A child with no background, no criminal background, no endangerment to the community, none whatsoever, be placed on a ELM enthralled home. Please help me understand. Make this make sense.
Okay, so we listened to his, advocate for the organization that he stated. It was a long list, like a long name, right? So continuing on, okay. We now know that GoFundMe, right? You cannot use that if you are needing it because it is for a crime or some of the sort. Okay, you cannot use GoFundMe. So, okay. We are all coughing in my home today. Like, this is really, I'm tired of it. But anywho, right? So I'm not going to be here too much longer, but I will come back with like 2 more stories between today and tomorrow for you guys to sit from. Okay. Let's see what this T is right here. Karmelo Anthony. All right. Okay, so what they did, I believe, is they doxed the judge. We're going to listen in now and see more of what they're talking about that we need to sit from, because you guys were just relentless on this kid. You guys have to also continue to remember he is still a teenager. Okay, he did this in a school environment. This is not something that you need to treat as if he was like a serial killer or someone going door to door killing people. This is not the circumstances surrounding the Karmelo Anthony kid. So him being a kid and it happening on grounds where kids are, a school, are serious elements in life for us, right? That we need to pay attention to with all of our clear, vital, antennas firing. This is not a kid that was in a gang or that was in the streets. Like, y'all are all focused on the wrong narratives of what is really behind the stabbing of this kid. Okay, it shouldn't be anything thrown in there about, oh, let's do this and let's do that. Let's see what the procedures look like going down through the case and what happens. Okay, what evidence is presented and how it's presented in the best way possible, hopefully, for both of these children to get the justice that they need. Let's listen into this news broadcast. Okay?
Information like their home address with malicious intent. The judge who reduced Karmelo Anthony's bond
in the deadly Frisco stabbing case. There's been a lot of racial tension on social media since the murder of Austin Metcalf. The 17-year-old suspect, Karmelo Anthony, was released on house arrest with a reduced bond. Investigators are now looking at reports that the judge who reduced that bond was targeted online. Fox 4's Stephen Dial is in studio with more on that. Stephen.
Steve, doxing is when someone publishes a person's private information like their home address with malicious intent. The judge who reduced Karmelo Anthony's bond is now allegedly having that happen to her. Judge Angela Tucker recently reduced bond for 17-year-old murder suspect Karmelo Anthony. Anthony's bond was originally set at $1 million, and Tucker reduced it, saying that the bond was set too high for a person with no criminal history. Austin Metcalf was stabbed in the chest during a dispute over bleacher seating at a track meet on April 2nd. The crime has made national news, and the topic has become a racially tense subject. Collin County investigators told us court and staff concerned and citizens reported that people are posting the judge's address on social media. Collin County is working with the FBI to monitor any concerning rhetoric or propaganda that could incite violence. I talked to a former Dallas County Assistant District Attorney, Russell Wilson, about this case.
Certain information is publicly available, but judges, individuals in law enforcement do have a statute that allows them to remove some of their information from being publicly available. And so publication of that information with the intent to cause harm or for them to get a threat is a crime in Texas.
Is that kind of something that is probably more prevalent nowadays because we have so much technology at our disposal? I doubt 15, 20 years ago, something like this was something officers investigated often.
I think you've definitely seen an uptick in threats and the publication of private information as it relates to judicial and law enforcement officials, not only here in Collin County or in Dallas area, but also nationwide.
Wilson said law enforcement have seen an uptick in threats and the publication of private information as it relates to judicial and law enforcement officials. We don't know how many actual cases Collin County is looking into. The sheriff's office said their priority is to ensure the judge's safety. It's still very early in the criminal case, even though Judge Tucker made the bond reduction ruling. It's not clear if she will end up being the judge who presides over the criminal trial trial. Steve, those judges are selected at random.
Okay, all right. Stephen Dowling, studio. Thank you very much. A Houston family is grieving after a 28-year-old woman was shot and killed in downtown Dallas. Ashley Long was murdered earlier this month. Kendrick Finch is accused of murdering her and shooting a friend she was with at the time. Court records reveal the shootout started after what appeared to be a harmless act. Fox 4's Peyton Yeager spoke to Long's family. Peyton.
Steve, and Ashley Long's family want her to be remembered as a career-oriented woman who had big dreams. Also, she was known as a glowing spirit and a loving friend and a loving daughter. In the immediate days after Ashley's murder, her family took to social media to spread awareness about this case. 2 weeks later, the suspect turned himself in to police. On a sunny Wednesday in downtown Dallas, stickers of 28-year-old Ashley Long are left along Main Street.
Her angel number was 444.
Okay, they are no longer talking about Karmelo Anthony right there. So we got some tea on the doxing, okay, and what more that looked like in the Karmelo Anthony situation, where they were doxing his information. Now, as they explained what doxing is, a lot of y'all on these social media sites already know. Doxing is when someone puts up your personal information for others to use in whatever way, but so that they know your information, okay? Let's listen to the Give, Send, Go co-founder. He opened up on hosting fundraiser for Karmelo Anthony. Let's give this a listen, okay? Thank you guys for sipping tea with me today. Unfortunately, it's not a happy story. Hopefully it has a better ending for the both of them, you know, however best that can look like. 1 second.
Thank you.
Difficult circumstance campaigns every single day. People who just got a death sentence by cancer. Proud am I of this campaign?
Okay, sorry, I don't know. My screen stopped sharing. Okay, so as I was saying, we're going to listen now to the Give. Hold on. I can't see that. Give, Send, Go co-founder. He's talking on hosting the fundraiser for Karmelo Anthony after allegedly murdering Austin Metcalf. Okay, let's listen in on his reasoning for why he hosts. He's allowing people of this nature, crime, however have you, being as serious as murder, use his hosting site to raise money.
I wouldn't say I'm proud at all. I don't, what, if there's any level of let's say, I don't even like the word proud, pride in it. But when to be utilized as a unifying platform, which I believe we are. We're being utilized to bring hope into difficult situations. I'm very happy to see the impact that our platform has had on so many lives, so many campaigns around the world. And this is just another one of them. The circumstances are very difficult. but we get difficult circumstance campaigns every single day. People who just got a death sentence by cancer diagnosis, or a family passed away in a tragic car accident. We see a lot of tragedy, which is why people oftentimes need to fundraise. This is just another one of those. So pride, no, I have no pride in this campaign being on Give, Send, Go. I just have appreciation for what Give, Send, Go is doing in the midst of these tragic moments, which is standing on principle, which is loving people even in the midst of very hard and dark places. There will always be people donating for the wrong reasons. I mean, on any campaign, there are people that believe that the best way forward is racial division. That's what they believe, and so they're going to stoke the flames of racial division however they can, and people do that all the time. That's just the prerogative of living, or the let's say, not even say penalty, but when you live in free societies, which we do, there is a price to pay, and that is it allows for some people to do things that might not be good. And I think people do that all the time. Like the death threats that we have, or just even saying nasty things to people. Like, well, that's your prerogative. I don't think that's a good thing. Like, do you think you're building society by cussing and swearing and being derogatory to people? Like, no, I don't think many people would agree with that, but yet we have freedom to do it. And so there are people that think that's the best way forward. And I don't find any validation in that in the real world as far as making a positive difference. I think it just adds more fuel to the fire. And I think they're happy with that because that's what they want. When someone is championing a racial narrative that is divisive and not unifying, then I would claim that that's a wrong reason to be donating. And there are people that have donated that are making claims that are divisive and not unifying. So, and those are in some of the comments. Unfortunately, like I said, in free societies, people can say things that are divisive and not unifying. And so there's another piece there. I'm trying to think. And they go both ways too. I mean, we've seen people who have made donations because donating is a way for you to comment on a campaign page, and they are on the other side of the political spectrum of a campaign, in a highly politicized campaign, and this one is as well. It's almost, followed a level of political division, but you have people that are on the other side of the aisle, and they'll donate the minimum $5 donation just so they can post a comment being derogatory to the Karmelo family or the Anthony family. So they're intentionally donating just so that they can say a comment to go after and have it be public. And they sit on the other side. Proud am I of this campaign? I wouldn't say I'm proud.
Okay, we have Sip Some Tea. That was from the Give, Send, Go co-founder of the fundraiser that hosted the raising of the money for Karmelo Anthony. Okay, that's what that tea was, y'all. Thank you so much for sipping tea with me today. We're sipping on the Karmelo Anthony. Unfortunately, in the matter, he did kill another teenager named Austin Metcalf, who was also 17 years old. Okay. Let's take a listen in on another person said Karmelo Anthony would be found not guilty. Here's why people are furious.
self-defense are, it's the easiest thing in the world to innocently step over them. And now you're...
So let me offend you first. Karmelo Anthony will be acquitted. He will be found not guilty. Okay, is everybody's sufficiently angry? Because far-left rioters are going to threaten the jurors, and the jurors are going to bend the knee. Not because he's actually innocent. That's what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be like the Arbery case. I think it's going to be like the Floyd case with Chauvin, where they're going to imprison, the jury is going to side with whatever the left is, and the rioters will not be imprisoned or face justice.
The question again is, did you have a reasonable perception that you were facing an imminent threat of unlawful deadly force harm? If the answer to that is yes, you can use deadly force in self-defense, and there's an infinite number of ways that can happen. If someone just grabs you, are they grabbing you and they have a knife in their other hand? Because that's going to be a bad day for you. Are they grabbing you and they're 200 pounds heavier than you? Bad day for you. That could well be a deadly force threat.
What if they grab you and there's 5 guys all around you?
Sure, then there's a disparity of numbers. Then it's the force of the collective group that's threatening you, not just one individual.
What if they don't touch you at all? Are there circumstances where deadly force is justified?
Yes, of course. If someone comes up to me and opens up their jacket and says, "Give me your wallet," and they show a gun, they haven't touched me. I don't have to suffer a scratch before I can defend myself. I can defend myself against the threat that's about to occur. It's an imminent threat that you're defending yourself against. In fact, if some guy runs up and punches you and then he runs away, you can't use force against that guy. The punch is over. The attack's over. That would be vengeance after that. If you're ever compelled to use force in defense of yourself or your family, the good news is that if you defended lawfully, you can be very hard to convict. But did you defend lawfully? Because if you don't know where the actual legal boundaries for self-defense are, it's the easiest thing in the world to innocently step over them, and now you're extremely easy to convict. Good news. In just a single day, you can become an expert on the law of self-defense and make yourself extremely hard to convict. On Saturday, April 26th, I'm holding one of my only twice-a-year, full-day Law of Self-Defense advanced classes. This class is taught on lawofselfdefense.com/advanced today. And I'll also drop that link.
And why is this murder?
Well, based on the evidence we have so far, of course, new evidence can arise and new evidence can change the legal analysis. But I see a lot of vulnerabilities on this claim of self-defense, on the facts and evidence, most of which are coming from, of course, the police report. I guess we'll be stepping through that probably.
We have it. Yeah, we have it.
Another.
I mean, we can bounce through it as you talk about your thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, I think to the extent we agree with what's in there, I don't think we need to go to the document unless you want to. But
I do think the important things to consider for people who maybe have only heard of this in passing is that there are 2 versions of the events in question. One is that, so we can glean some information based on this. It was either about a thunderstorm or was raining. The tent in question, it's important to clarify, it's a pop-up gazebo, not an enclosed space. The 2 versions of the events in the police report are that they're relatively similar. This is, I believe, Officer Wetzel. He was told by one of the witnesses that Karmelo Anthony went into this pop-up, sat down, Austin approached him and told him to leave, to which he responded, he grabbed his bag, reached in and said, "Touch me and see what happens." They then say that Austin proceeded to touch Anthony, and then Anthony told Austin to punch him and see what happens. A short time later, Austin grabbed Anthony to tell him to move. Anthony pulled out what redacted recalled as a black knife and stabbed Austin once in the chest and ran away. Austin began grabbing his chest and telling everyone to get help. Redacted advised he did not know Anthony's name, but stated another Memorial Track member who goes by the initials E and P was friends with Anthony and could identify Anthony. Redacted described Anthony as a black male, skinny with possibly a goatee, short puffy hair, wearing Centennial High School clothing, and that concluded his contact. Another officer, I don't know how much detail we need to go in on the second one because it's relatively similar. But the second witness account was that Karmelo Anthony was actually pacing back and forth beneath the tent. So that's an important addition to the claim because it implies, I think it implies he had the ability to flee at any moment. So the argument that there was a threat of death upon him was that if he's pacing back and forth, according to one of the witnesses, he could have paced well out of the way of any harm. But that's in this.
Even without that, of course, the challenge to him was leave. So he was being given the opportunity to leave.
That's the second account. The second account doesn't mention the punch me and see what happens, just the touch me and see what happens, and it added that he was pacing back and forth. So, what would give us what you need in Texas for something to be self-defense?
You need to have a reasonable perception that you're facing an imminent, unlawful threat of deadly force harm, and you need not to have provoked that conflict.
But interestingly, too, Texas doesn't require you to flee at all.
Well, there's a catch there. So Texas is a stand your ground state. In fact, it's what I call a hard stand your ground state. If you qualify for stand your ground, the jury's not even allowed to consider the possibility that you could have retreated in evaluating whether your self-defense was reasonable. But if you can be characterized as the provoker, if you provoked a confrontation, you reacquire. You don't qualify for stand your ground as a provoker, and you reacquire a legal duty to retreat. So to the extent the prosecution can argue that Karmelo Anthony provoked this confrontation with this touch me, see what happens dialogue, that would lose him stand your ground, and he would have a legal duty to retreat.
So what do you guys think? You think he provoked it?
Yeah.
That's how I hear those words.
Yeah. You're more of the, you've got a neutral fundraising platform.
Yes.
You're not trying to be involved, but I'm curious your thoughts on this case. So let me just throw some information first. Gives and Go allows people to raise money for legal defense.
Right.
Regardless of the presumption of guilt or innocence or otherwise. And you've gotten a lot of heat from people for allowing them to run a fundraiser, but you've also allowed many, many others. I believe Luigi Mangione has a fundraiser.
He does. And like you said, many, many, many others. Like I could go through a laundry list of people that the right would potentially consider heroes. The Kyle Rittenhouses, the Daniel Pennies. I mean, Daniel Penny's situation, I don't think the guy, he verbally said some stuff, but I don't think he had even punched or struck anybody, Jordan Neely, before Daniel Penny intervened in that situation. So we've allowed campaigns across the board. We believe in that presumption of innocence. With this case, obviously you can see what you can see, but the problem is there's so much that we don't know. I mean, you can try to adjudicate these things and talk about the facts that we know, but I believe that there is so much that we still don't know. And it makes it very difficult, which is why we take the principled stance that we take.
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it as shockingly and offensive to everybody as I can, as fast as I can. Then I'm going to pause for 5 seconds, and then you're all going to agree with me. I'm talking to the audience. So let me offend you first. Karmelo Anthony will be acquitted. He will be found not guilty. Okay, is everybody sufficiently angry? Because far left rioters are going to threaten the jurors, and the jurors are going to bend the knee, not because he's actually innocent. That's what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be like the Arbery case. I think it's going to be like the Floyd case with Chauvin, where they're going to imprison, the jury is going to side with whatever the left is, and the rioters will not be imprisoned or face justice.
I personally think, and this is why one of the reasons why we allow campaigns for things like this is so that somebody in a situation, Karmelo in this scenario, can have the best defense, and it actually removes some of the vitriol on the left in this case from being able to say he was unjustly given, he wasn't given afforded the same defense situation.
We're going to pause it there, tea sippers. What do you guys think? Do you guys believe that because of a shift of the understanding of whatever the Republican or Democratic Party or however have you in Texas wants to swing, that will be where the pendulum lands for Mr. Little Karmelo Anthony? Or do you think he'll have a fair understanding of potentially having self-defense be his, ultimate ending? Or do you think he'll go to trial or take a plea deal? Or what do you guys think? Drop your teacups in the chat. Spill your tea on what you think could potentially be his outcome.
That these other ones, it actually removes that or decreases the likelihood of that, because they're going to have to sit back at the end of whatever comes out here and they're going to say, you know what, he raised $500,000. He actually was able to hire a private attorney and get a great defense, and that's to me a calming effect. It's another reason why we allow these types of campaigns.
And by the way, that would be a completely legitimate take. So from my perspective, I think anybody should be able to raise as much money as they possibly can for their legal defense, because the money matters. We'd all like to think we live in a world where how many resources you can bring to the legal fight doesn't affect the kind of justice you get. But I guarantee you it does. A $200,000 legal defense is a lot different than a $20,000 legal defense. And if the left or whoever's on Karmelo Anthony's side politically were to say, hey, he got defunded, that's why he got convicted, there's merit to that argument.
Yes.
And however, what has his family been doing as of late? Now, they say they don't have access to the funds, but they moved into a bigger house in a gated community, got security, and bought reportedly an Escalade. So
didn't they move into their house like 6 months ago or like 8 months ago before the murder even happened, though?
Is that true? I don't know.
I'm almost certain it was.
I saw numerous reports saying
summer of 2024.
My understanding is that they had told the judge the reason they couldn't afford the $1 million bail was that they didn't have access to the funds, and they were going to use it to secure new housing and security. And then the judge lowered the bail down by 75%.
Yeah, so part of that, I think there's partial truths. This is
now, as we already should know, we already debunked that theory of however they are using the money that they raise. Okay. They've talked about that already. They got the money after Karmelo Anthony was supposedly released on bond, that they had already paid the bond. I think they put their house up or something of the sort for Karmelo Anthony's bond, because I think he had to pay $25,000 for the bond. When you get a $250,000 bond, your bond's like $25,000. So that's already been debunked of what the gentleman there saying about, they bought an Escalade and all that. That's just shit that was being shucked around on Facebook. Okay. Anybody can put a goddamn copy and paste thumbnail together and say, oh my God, yeah, Karmelo bought a house and a car. He didn't even get access to the money from our understanding of what they stood up at the podium and said when he got released. His advocate, his mom and dad, said they didn't even get access to the money until after he was already released on a bond.
The problem is that partial truths just run wild. I think what we saw was that they were already renting a $900,000 square foot home. They lived in that type of home already. As a result of this situation, they found another one within a gated community to rent as well, so that they could have some security for their family. The Cadillac that was, supposed to have been bought recently wasn't. It's a couple of years old. It was bought in 2023. So a lot of these things are mixed up in the media. I think it was a New York Post.
New York Post.
Yeah.
I believe The Sun. I believe even The Independent have all reported this.
Oh, they did. And most of it's been already fact-checked and debunked. It was unreliable sources.
Thank you. Fact-checked and debunked.
Oh, it was a neighbor that said, well, they got a temporary tag on a thing, so they just bought this new vehicle. It's like,
wow.
Most of this stuff, completely unreliable sources, and it's caused narratives. And this is why, if you watch the interview that the mom did the other day, she addressed some of these things in it, which is just like there's false narratives that are running rampant.
Is that the same one that the victim's father showed up to?
Yes.
Brilliant move.
It was crazy.
He showed up. It was absolutely brilliant. I think it kind of shows the circumstance of, people coming after the family and saying like, well, he had no duty to retreat. He could have sat there the entire time. This guy was getting accosted because he sat underneath the tent. Oh, dad shows up to a place that seems like it's open to the public, and now it's inappropriate for him to be somewhere where he has the legal right to be. Oh my God, the juxtaposition. It's crazy. It's almost like dad did that on purpose and was brilliantly done.
Let's clarify. There are a lot of things that I've seen online where people are so adamant to adjudicate this case before we've gone to trial,
right,
that they have said things that are incorrect as it pertains to self-defense. I've seen people say things like, you can't use lethal force if someone is simply grabbing you. They say things like, you can't use lethal force unless you've been touched. I've seen things like, you can't use lethal force unless you are facing explicit lethal force. And there's caveats to all of these things. So I asked the lawyer himself, are there circumstances where being grabbed in any scenario, like you can imagine one, where lethal force would be justifiable self-defense?
Absolutely. I mean, everyone's asking the wrong question or answering the wrong question. The question again is, did you have a reasonable perception that you were facing an imminent threat of unlawful deadly force harm? If the answer to that is yes, you can use deadly force in self-defense. And there's an infinite number of ways that can happen. If someone just grabs you, are they grabbing you and they have a knife in their other hand? Because that's going to be a bad day for you. Are they grabbing you and they're 200 pounds heavier than you? Bad day for you. That could well be a deadly force threat.
What if they grab you and there's 5 guys all around you?
Sure, then there's a disparity of numbers. Then it's the force of the collective group that's threatening you, not just one individual.
What if they don't touch you at all? Are there circumstances where deadly force is justified?
Yes, of course. If someone comes up to me and opens up their jacket and says, "Give me your wallet," and they show a gun, they haven't touched me. I don't have to suffer a scratch before I can defend myself. I can defend myself against the threat that's about to occur. It's an imminent threat that you're defending yourself against. In fact, if some guy runs up and punches you and then he runs away, you can't use force against that guy. The punch is over. The attack's over. That would be vengeance after that.
What if he stabs you and runs away? Same thing?
Same thing. I mean, I know you'd want to.
Yeah, I mean, people would be like, "How dare you?" But
Right.
yeah.
He'd have to continue to represent a deadly force threat to somebody. So if he's running around stabbing people, and so it seems likely he's about to stab someone else after you, but then you're actually shooting him in defense of others, in defense of the people.
So the other important thing too is that all these states are different. So it's hard to know.
They're not that different. It's about 80% the same across the 50 states.
Yeah, you're talking about Tennessee versus Garner, which you were talking about in the car a little bit earlier. That's the fleeing felon rule. Like, what you can use deadly force on a fleeing felon if he's still a threat to others. However, hypothetically, and this is the Tennessee Garner case, if you drop a firearm and you jump a fence and the cop is still chasing after you, he can't plug you in the back. That threat of deadly use of force to the community is no longer present.
Yeah, the issue is not the flight. The issue is, does the person still represent a danger to somebody?
There was that case in Atlanta which sparked those massive BLM riots where a guy he fell asleep. I think he was drunk in a drive-through. When the officers showed up, he fought them.
Yep.
And then stole their taser.
Yep.
So he was trying to flee, I think, when they shot him.
Two cops.
Right.
It's hard to make an arrest of someone who doesn't want to be arrested.
Been there before.
So let's say this. In that scenario, the guy steals the taser and begins to run.
Yep.
Can the police use deadly force against him now?
If he had just continued running, probably not. But he turned and pointed his taser back at the officer. And I know we think of tasers, and I'll defer to the officer here if he disagrees with what I'm saying. We think of tasers as a non-deadly force weapon because we think of it as being used in a defensive capacity. And when it's used in that way, it is non-deadly force. But a defensive use of a taser or pepper spray, for example, is very different than an offensive use. An offensive use, you're trying to debilitate your victim, presumably not to stop as you would in self-defense, but to continue to use force or predate on them in some way. So being debilitated, no longer able to defend yourself, to my mind, it's no different than getting hit in the head with a baton and getting knocked unconscious. You're helpless now. So an offensive use of these weapons to debilitate someone, I would characterize as deadly force, meaning force likely to cause death or serious bodily injury.
So let's go to the Karmelo Anthony debate as it is. As described, we have you're an officer, so I'm or detective. So I'm curious.
At ease, gentlemen. At ease.
These police reports. How substantive are they in court, or does this not get used? Like, you will need the statement from the officer and the witness.
Yes, I'm actually really surprised that they put all this information up. For my city, these statements by these officers, it's called a P73. It's basically saying, hey, listen, you were involved in a homicide. You showed up. I need you to write this. And that goes directly to the homicide detective. It's not shared with the public. This being shared with the public is huge. I mean, the transparency is amazing. And also the work that these officers did is amazing.
I think it's a risk.
How so?
Could this not prejudice a jury and be used by the defense to argue that information? So they released only select witness statements, despite the fact that you've got this list of witnesses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 31 witnesses. And they've released statements of like 3 in these reports.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. like, one, you get transparency, but two, you get everybody on the internet trying to make their own ideas of what's going on and what the police are hiding. My department, those statements are held tight. You don't get a look at that because of all the crap that can come up from it. Double-edged sword.
Well,
but all those statements would be used in court.
And yet the only way to address that is in voir dire, is in jury selection. And when the jurors are instructed, the judge will instruct the jurors, you are only allowed to come to a verdict based on the evidence, the testimony, the law you get in. I know. And we also live in a world where there are no, the jury's supposed to come in like a blank sheet of paper, knowing nothing about the case at all. That's the ideal. And in the past, you could get away with that. But today, especially with any high-profile case, there is no juror who's not been exposed. We get this into this a lot when defendants want a change in venue. They want the trial held in a different city or something. And invariably, the judges look at them and say, where in this state, this happened with Derek Chauvin, where in this state do you think you could hold this trial that doesn't have the same level of exposure? It's the internet. It's not a local paper.
I think Chauvin should have been released free and charges dropped.
Yeah, of course.
So for those that are not familiar, when the judge said that there is no venue in this state where you will be free from this, prejudice, it's like, okay, you're free to go.
That's my view as well. If you cannot offer an impartial jury to someone entitled to an impartial jury under the Constitution, you cannot justly try that person.
Right.
The answer is not to try them unjustly.
Right.
The answer is you can't try them.
Would it make sense? I already have a general idea of what people are going to say to this, but would it make sense to change venue to a different state?
But you can't. I mean, our structure isn't set up that way. If it's a state crime, it has to be tried in that state.
The argument being those residents are not your peers.
Only those courts have lawful jurisdiction, have authority to hear that dispute. Thanks for watching this highlight segment of our full-length Law of Self-Defense live stream. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to give us a like and subscribe for more expert analysis on politics, law, and how to be hard to convict. And to watch
Okay, I don't know what happened. I have an echo though. Fuck. Okay, do I still have it? Okay. So, I have an echo. Damn it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap up my live stream because I have a serious, I don't know, I clicked out of the video and stopped sharing the video and finish this. That's what I'm going to have to do. So, in the matter of Karmelo Anthony and the Austin Metcalf case, both teenagers, not wrong place, wrong time, not bad kids. So, what I have to say for this matter currently, I feel devastated that a teenager lost his life, especially in the manner that it occurred. I feel bad that it occurred at the hands of another young person because both lives are essentially more than likely ruined, right? I hate the fact that Karmelo Anthony took a weapon to school that he currently has not said used for like wood shop or anything of the sort. I don't know how that's going to look for him. I'm not looking for him to get like punished to the maximum amount of the law. However, we have to be prepared for anything because Karmelo did kill another child, right? So we're going to continue to sip this tea. I really want to thank everybody for tuning in. I have an echo, like I have a fucking echo. And I don't know why I have a fucking echo, but I have a fucking echo. Not hearing me. Let me see if I bring it back on. I have like a 3-second echo delay. Please let me know how you feel in the chat. Drop your tweets and spill your tea on what you feel about the Karmelo Anthony Austin Metcalf case up until the point. Like I said, I hate for both the children. One child's dead. Another child used a weapon to kill the other child. I hate the fact that Karmelo Anthony just did not put the knife, not even pick up the knife out of his backpack and just use his fists. I really, 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 really hate that aspect of the case because that will be the essential coffin in nail in his coffin, essentially to whether or not he gets time and how much time. The fact that he killed this kid with a knife. So I hate that he used the knife. I really, really do. We're going to continue to sip this tea. Thank you all for sipping with me tonight. Remember, stay sipping.
Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay sipping.